Greetings, friends of the Charleston Area Justice Ministry. I am the Reverend Nelson B. Rivers III, proud pastor of the Charity Missionary Baptist Church, a founding member of CAJM, and a longtime work in the field of social justice and civil rights. Treva asked me to reflect on this statement for our network meetings, and I'm honored to do so. It's moral to put our pressure on officers. Dr. King's quote, "The early Christians rejoiced when they were deemed worthy to suffer for what they believed in. In those days, the church was not merely a thermometer that recorded the ideas and principles of popular opinion. It was a thermostat that transformed the mores of a society." The question has come, is it moral for us to put pressure on the Medical University of South Carolina after they reneged, deceived, and turned their back on what they made a promise to do? So I'm called to reflect on the letter from a Birmingham jail by Dr. King. I want to read to you the description of this letter. This is the book that I would recommend to your attention. It is called A Testament of Hope. It is the essential writings and speeches of Martin Luther King Jr., edited by James M. Washington. It is the best book that I know of to summarize both to his writings, his speeches, his sermons, his thoughts and reflections, who Dr. King was, and more importantly, what he believed, and even more importantly, what he did. Dr. King wrote this famous essay, written in the form of an open letter, 16th of April, 1963, while in jail. He was serving a sentence for participating in civil rights demonstrations in Birmingham, Alabama. He rarely took the time to defend himself against his opponents. It's very important. If I were to write a response to everybody who criticizes me for doing this work, I would not have time to do this work. But 8 prominent, quote-unquote, liberal Alabama clergy people, all white, published an open letter early in January of that year, called on King to allow the battle of integration to continue in the local and federal courts, and warned that King's nonviolent resistance would have an effect of inciting civil disturbances. Dr. King answered the Christian ministers to see that the meaning of the Christian discipleship was at the heart of the African American struggle for freedom, justice, and equality. It's important for us as Black people and as members of CAJM to communicate with all of you, regardless of your background, your ethnicity, your race, that I believe that it's the calling of a Christian to do justice, but also a calling of a Christian to create tension with the unjust and those who seek to do injustice. Why do I say that? Let me give you a reflection from Dr. King. King, in answering this letter, made this point, and maybe one of these points we've not done enough at CAJM. He says in this page 290 of the book, in any nonviolent campaign, there are 4 basic steps, and CAJM has engaged in most of these. Collection of facts to determine whether injustices are alive. We've done that. Negotiation. We've negotiated. The third is self-purification, and the fourth is direct action. Well, without going through the illumination of all of this, self-purification simply means looking inside, preparing yourself for adversity and what might happen if things don't go your way. In other words, self-purification means preparing yourself for tension. And then, of course, the last of the 4, he talked about direct action means that before you take direct action, you're supposed to self-purify, get yourself ready. Let me show you what King said back to these white clergy people who were Christians, who in Alabama, and they were some of the ones who were supposed to be fair, or at least moderate. And they wrote him saying, stop, because you're creating tension and you're making white folk basically upset. And so, it wasn't making Black folk upset. You may well ask, King says, why direct action? Why sit-ins, marches, etc.? Isn't negotiation a better path? Well, we did that. You're exactly right in your call for negotiation. Indeed, this is the purpose of direct action. I underscore this. The reason we take direct action is not to punish MUSC, not to embarrass them, but to bring them back to the table to have the integrity of their witness. They made a commitment in front of everybody, and they have turned their back on that commitment. If they're allowed to do that, then it makes our work a mockery and a sham. And so therefore we have to challenge them. So you wonder, What about this tension? And Dr. King addresses this, and he does it better than I can. He says, I just referred to creation of tension as a part of the work of the nonviolent resistor. This may sound rather shocking, but I must confess, I am not afraid of the word tension. We cannot succeed if we're worried about tension. Our job is to create tension. And when we asked for justice, we created tension. When we asked for them to provide the mobile health centers, that was to create tension, because tension has to be resolved, and our goal is to resolve tension with justice. So don't let them fool you. Don't let them use your own words against you. Dr. King's work was grounded in the ethic of Christianity and the love that emanates from Christianity, and you should not become weary in well-doing. I want you to understand this. If you give up now, you will not win. The reason they're responding that way is because the tension is becoming unbearable. We want to become unsufferable, that they stop wanting to have tension and want to have justice. Don't quit. Now is the time. I encourage you, I implore you, read the messages of the great non-violent prophet of the 20th century, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Don't just use what people say about him. I believe, as my friend Freddie Haynes says, Dr. King has a prima facie evidence of identity theft. We've stolen the liberation theologian, who he was, and made him a nice Negro. Beloved, they didn't kill him because he was a nice Negro. They killed him because he created tension. But his death led to a revolution that changed the face of America. Sometimes tension is good, because without tension, there's no seeking of solution.